Thank you for staying with us. We are discussing social media and how it has become a tool for good or evil.
And by the way, the show is Today with John and Helen on PlusTvAfrica, channel 408, DSTV. And our guest this week is Yeye Bush. Yeye trained as a legal practitioner and is a certified mediator and advocate. She is a UK certified etiquette consultant from International Etiquette and Protocol Academy of London. She is passionate about helping her clients be their best. We've gone through all of that, and Yeye is right here seated and ready to take us through the ride on social media.
Should we dive into it?
I guess we should.
Yes, thanks for joining us, Yeye Bush. There's something about the name Yeye Bush.
Yes, so...
You know, from the moment I read it, it was, Yeye, it means...
Where are you from?
I'm Yoruba.
Yeye is Yoruba, yeah?
Yes, I'm Yoruba.
But Yeye is also royalty.
Yes.
Yeye is mother?
Yes, it's also mother.
Okay, Yeye.
So where is the Bush from?
I'm married to Yakub Bush Alebioshu. That's my husband, Dio.
Okay, not one of the other Bushes.
Not one of those. It's a family name.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right, Yeye. So let's dive right into it, because you see, the topic for today is one that really we would rather spend
A lot of time
on.
Sure.
We know that media generally, has the power to influence individual beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors, while at the same time it would entertain and educate and also inform us. Now, has it become a double-edged sword for us as far as protecting our values are concerned?
Yeah, that's such a good and really interesting question, and I like to play the devil's advocate. Over centuries, we've had this cry, oh, it's eroding our values. Maybe a new trend comes up or a new fad comes up or something that is not the usual. As humans, we like stability and we like steadiness, and like we all know, change is the only constant in the world.
Yeah.
So I think for me, social media has even helped our values in the sense that when we see something on social media that we disagree with something rises up in us passionately and we want to even hold on to our values. And like I kind of alluded to, values have are kind of fluid and have changed over the years. In the 60s, when the hippies came and the ladies started wearing shorter skirts, imagine the uproar that, this is so wrong, and I also think that social media has been a tool for people to express themselves, the rebellious teenager. But really, after a while, we all conform to being our steady middle-aged selves after the first flush of youthful exuberance passes.
Yes.
All right, so social media especially seems to be changing our relationship styles in several ways. Does this worry you, and should it worry us?
It doesn't worry me. It doesn't worry me at all, because one of the things I kind of have come to conclude in my heart is that the word social is what it is. It's social, so it's not real life. And the sooner a person actually recognizes that, the easier it is to actually, filter through. And so social media has been a tool for a lot of predators out there to actually, prey on people. And when that happens and it gets exposed, people get more information. So it has changed it, but not to a really detrimental extent. Real life is still real life once the social goes away.
Yes, and I looked at your profile, and one thing that sticks out, prominently is the fact that you've done so much with children.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we have your book here, Going Away for School, especially dedicated to children.
Yes.
And that shows us, where you stand. Now, let's try and see how much we're protecting our children. What do you think parents should do, to help further protect the children from the ills of social media?
Parent, as in be a parent.
Yeah, being parenting, yes.
Yes, be a parent.
Okay.
You buy the phones, you buy the data, so you can actually restrict the usage of the phones and the usage of the data. I got a young friend I met many years ago, and at that time, I think she was maybe 17. And up to that point, her parents do not allow them to go on social media. So a lot of us parents, we think we do not have the power, and that maybe because of peer pressure, but you are the parent. If you buy them the phone, you can insist, okay, no social media apps, don't put the credit on it for the internet. And then you can even when they're allowed to go on social media, you can decide what apps they can go on, and you can even restrict how much time they spend on those apps.
But wouldn't that be...
infringing on their...
Not infringing, really. Wouldn't you make them feel like they don't belong to their...
But that's another thing, peer pressure.
Yes.
If you are the parent and you have a plan, or you have a plan for your life and what you want your child's life to be like, you will enforce it. It's just like how you not allow a child of 5 to start smoking. It's the same principle.
Yeah, okay.
So let's not be swayed by, it's social media, their peers all have access to it. You can restrict your child from having access to it, and you can restrict your child, like I said earlier, to have access to certain apps.
Yeah.
And even the time. In my household, you get your phones, maybe if it's a weekend, you get your phones at 12, and your phones must be back with me by 6.
How old are your children?
I've got a 15-year-old and I've got a 10-year-old.
And they're nice and obedient children.
That's why I asked the question.
They don't
nice and obedient.
Of course, I get a lot of moaning and complaining.
Yes.
Why can't I? My friends are, but I'm not your friend's mother. I'm your mother, and I will decide what is good
and
for
the
you.
rules here are different.
Are different until you're old enough to manage yourself.
So
I'm a middle-aged woman, and it's difficult for me. Yes, you have to be firm.
Yeah.
In my book, I say it's difficult for me not to reach for my phone, and I'm a middle-aged woman.
Yeah.
So what say younger children?
Wow.
Great.
That's true. It's very difficult. Sometimes you wake up first thing in the morning, first thing that comes to mind is, let me check what's happening.
Even before I wake up, I'm grabbing my phone.
Wow. Okay. So, dragging, shaming, and airing one's laundry. These words and others have become the norm on social media at the moment. Why?
Well, let's face it, social media kind of evolved faster than anyone could catch it or would ever think. And so far, right at the beginning, unlike most other phenomenons in the world, there were rules. This one had no rules. And people look at it, it's so easy to hide behind your keyboard in your room and write everything, not thinking of the consequences of what you're writing. So, but as time goes on, of course, rules must come in. So in my book, I've got a whole chapter on social media, and it talks about, social media etiquette, what you should do and not do on social media. So I think for us, for the dragging issue, for each individual has to look into themselves and actually follow the rules, and that will prevent what happens. Like if you do not agree with something, do not engage. And if you do feel strongly about it, you can always send a private message to the individual concerned. And it's also sensationalism. That's what attracts all of us. We all love the good gossip. I mean, what would life be like if we are not able to gossip about our friends and laugh at their mistakes, and they laugh at ours? So it's all the sensationalism. But you as a decent individual, you caution yourself. The buck lies with you.
The buck lies with you.
And it's a free-for-all thing.
Yeah.
Someone comes there and uploads some falsehood about you. A lot of things just for what you just talked about to become so that you have a lot of likes, and you have the followers and all of that. Not minding the damage that is likely to be done by what you've uploaded on the internet about a particular person. You talked about rules now. These things just came from nowhere, and we embraced it 101%. For example, can I sue if somebody does or says something about me that is,
Of course, defamation, slander, all those are all offenses.
In this environment, can I sue?
Of course. And people, you can even ask for, look, before the internet came, there were newspapers. If somebody wrote falsehood about you and published it in the newspaper, you'll get them to retract it and they'll tender an apology. So it's the same thing.
Okay.
You see, we're talking about rules, still on rules. I see social media being a little more slippery than most other things. You know, there's a way, yes, even with the rules, people are able to circumvent, go around it, and still come out in one form or the other, unless you say, hey, bang, like the federal government did recently, that, okay, we're going to just
Ban for now.
ban, you know, without caring whose ox is God, you know. So, what don't you think that people may see some of the media rules as being restrictive? And then, how else do you think government, for instance, you know, can help protect us?
Definitely, there's always going to be a rebellion against anything that seems restrictive. And for me, I believe that the people are the government. And that's where your humanity actually comes in, to ensure that what you put out there is actually, is what you put out there is true, is kind. You know, those little things. Is it kind? Is it true? Will it benefit somebody else? So we are the government. The government, you know, we elect them, and we are the government every day. So if you see something that is unpalatable, that you think is wrong, you can, whatever the authorities, I think on the Instagram, for instance, you can always send a message that you don't like this, and they'll ask you your reasons.
Yes.
So we are the people, we can do that.
So it's like being self-regulatory.
It is,
to a large
because
extent.
let's face it, the internet, the social media, it's really big. It's really difficult for somebody to regulate. So we have to, you know, be self-regulating in this instance.
But unfortunately, a lot of people are not educated on some of, you talk to etiquette,
Yes.
even the basic, you know, ways of relating with one another on a normal way.
Yes.
A lot of people really are not they're not interested in learning, you know, what it means, how to be a human being to the next person. So when you talk social media, and it as huge as it is an all-commerce thing, it becomes a lot more difficult. But we'll go away from that. It has not all been negative influence, has it? Are there any positives?
I think one of the things that we also should also realize is that when we talk about social media, we tend to maybe narrow it down to the big three: the Facebook, the Instagram, and Twitter. But social media is really, really quite wide. There's so many other apps. There's Medium, there's Reddit, there's so many other apps. And a lot of it has also been used for good. So, or maybe if you see if there maybe 100%, maybe 20 people are dragging people, the 80 people there's so many feel-good stories on the Instagram, on those social media apps. There's so many feel-good stories that even inspire others to do good. So I don't think, it's big, all right, but it's also really has been a weapon for good.
Yes. And you know, we're talking values
Yes.
as it relates to social media and its use.
Yes.
Values will differ depending on where you come from.
Sure.
Okay. Now, how do we apply our own values as Nigerians or maybe Africans to this alien, relatively alien, you know, alien things that coming, you know, that attack us all of the time? How do we as a people infuse our values, you know, to make it work better for us?
I think we've already done that as a people, because there's so many apps there's so many posts. I love Instagram, so I will talk about that. There's so many posts on Instagram that actually talk about our values, our love for music, our love for food. There's so many food blogs. There are even language blogs. One of my favorites is Urban Yoruba. And they they crack jokes on it, and they also talk about Yoruba culture, because that's my culture. But you learn so much. Like, there's so many blogs from other parts of the country, and I haven't traveled widely in Nigeria, and it's such a treat to me to see how other people live, the kind of food they eat, and their values. So social media for me has been a way of even letting me know what our similarities are as values. I don't look at it as an alien thing that has come. So
you think the conversions are quite appreciable now? Conversions into our...
Yes. And it's been such a great tool for me to actually sit in my home and visit great tourist spots, I've been on that train to Ibadan many times from my house. I've climbed Olumo many times from my house. I've been to some waterfall in Erin Jesha so many times from my home. I visited the Obudu cattle ranch so many times from my home. So for me, it has even enhanced our culture, enhanced our values as a people.
So
I like the word
we can actually
she
take
visited.
Yes, we can take Helen back.
As if you were there, you know, practically there.
We can send you back home.
Well, yes, of course. You can go anywhere in the world. You know, that's what it is. Okay. Yeye Bush is our guest on the show this morning, and the program is Today with John and Helen on Plus TV Africa. We've been talking about social media, its do's and don'ts, its positives and negatives. Please don't go away. We'll take a very quick break, and before you know it, we will be back.
Thanks for staying with us. We have an etiquette expert speaking to us on social media as a tool and way of life. Now, Yeye, before the advent of social media, we survived as people, you know, as a people. Now, and we did that beautifully too, okay? How do we draw a balance from our new way of life and our former? Because we survived.
The analog former.
Yes, my grandmother survived without all of these things. So how do we...
That's a really relevant question, because with the phone in your pocket, it's like the whole world is in your pocket.
Oh, yes.
If you have access to them, they definitely have access to you. And at times it can be really, really overwhelming. So when I was writing my book, one of the things I came across was the concept of unplugging. I'd never, it had never occurred to me that you can actually put your phone down. But if you notice, I said earlier that you buy the phone and you buy the data. So really, it shouldn't be controlling you. You should be controlling it. So the whole idea of unplugging is you could start small. In my book, I write about maybe just put away your phone, switch it off for an hour a day, and then build up on that. During that hour, you can rest and do other things. If you've got hobbies, something creative, which will actually rest you, can actually do that. You can do that instead of being on your phone.
I smile because I lost the phone about a month ago, and it was like my whole world came crumbling.
In fact, if you misplace your phone
for a minute,
you're like, hey, how do I get on with life until I find it?
Exactly. So when you make that little box your whole world, when it gets missing, what then happens? So the challenge or the thing to do is not make it your whole world. Have other interests that actually occupy your time. So use it for exactly what it's meant to be. The few hours you're on there socializing, and then you go. I also always advise that when you are going on, have an intention. Yes. Why am I going on this? What am I going to do? And how long do I plan to spend on this phone? Yes. If you are one of the people that are unable to put the phone down for large amounts of times, there are actually things on the phone, apps that restrict your use of some social media. So you can put an app on that, okay, you just use it 1 hour a day, and maybe on certain days, you can actually program your phone to do that, so you are not going back, frequently.
That's if I don't suffer withdrawals.
Coming to that, that's actually a real thing, like addiction. There's even a test on the internet that you can take to see if you are addicted. Yeah. I know studies, there's so many studies, although there's really no study that's correlation between mental health and internet use. But we see it all the time. There are other studies that teenagers, for instance, that use social media, they're more likely to have body image issues because they see the perfect bodies. Yes. The influencers have the perfect bodies, and so if you can, it's always a good thing to do. Just put it away.
If
you can, yes.
Yes.
But start small.
Start small. Mm-hmm. Start small, because as you're talking about it, I'm thinking in my head, the phones are out 24 hours. They are on 24 hours, and if you don't have data, I've heard people who say my data is on 24 hours. I don't even.
My data is on 24 hours. I don't even.
And it comes across like I'm cool, kind of.
Oh, it doesn't.
That the data is on, unlimited all the time. So, but this is very cool advice. And we hope we can try it out.
Think about it this way. When you're sleeping for the 7 or 5 hours you're sleeping, you're not online, and the world still goes on. You're not missing anything.
Yes. We're not missing anything, but first we have to believe that, we're not missing anything.
Yes, you have to believe.
Our mindsets, you have to work on our mindsets.
And she's talking of planning. So you have to plan it before you can get started and see whether you can follow with your plan. Now, could we possibly redesign these social media processes to suit our purposes? You talked about a few of them, that we can put some apps that will tell us how many hours we can add there, other things that we can do to help us, get more benefits from the social media platform.
Oh yes. One of the things I discovered is that there are like alternate universes on social media. So, for instance, if you've got a hobby like knitting or crocheting, there's so many posts or apps that actually speak to that. Like I said, I love Instagram. So, if your feed, you can design your feed so you see what it is you want to see. So, for instance, if you love crocheting or you like knitting, what will come up on your apps will be, that. What will come up on your feed will all be that. Then if you're into maybe design, do it yourself, it's all AI, artificial intelligence. So you can actually train it to pop your interest will pop up. So you can do that.
Yeah.
There's all the things that you can do. If you like feel-good stories, you make sure that all your feed brings up are feel-good stories. They don't bring up the mean things. And if there's anything you see that you don't like, you can always say, hide from my feed. You can do this on almost all the apps that are there, all the social media apps. So it's what you want to see that comes up. If you're into books or writer, you can do that. If you're into painting, art, that's what you'll see. So you actually have more control than you think. And I think that's another fallacy that we've been fed, that you don't have control. Everything pops up. It's like when you spoke about the mind, you do have control over your mind. You can regulate your thoughts. So you can now decide, look at it this way. How do you want to feel through the day? Because one of the things about mindlessly feeding off on the social media is that it brings you feelings of envy. When you see other people's lifestyle looking much nicer than you, because I want to be all, lying on the beach with a coconut and a straw in my hand and enjoying the beautiful scenery.
Yes.
But, remember, you also have to remember that a lot of the things you see on the social media are curated. They show you the highlight reels. They don't show you the real lives. They don't show you what happens behind. So there's some things that as a person you have to remember. So for me, that's why when it comes to the etiquette, especially for interactions, I'm very keen on working with children, because if they can crack that code at a younger age, it really, really does help with life on the long run. Yes,
it does. And you know what? My mind just went on a trip.
That mind again.
That mind went on a trip. You see, my grandmother in the village, I'm getting worried. And then my distant cousins and all of them. Because I don't know whether to still look at social media as a cosmopolitan thing, and my dear cousins.
The younger ones are all over.
My dear cousins and my
villages.
grandmother and all of them in the urban areas in the rural areas are immune from all of these things that we worry about. What's your take?
Okay, in the 1970s and 1980s, it was said that everywhere you see a Coca-Cola bottle, the CIA was there. So now, if anywhere you see that the tower that looks like the Eiffel Tower, the communication tower, don't worry, the internet is there. So I don't think anybody can actually hide from it. It's been, I keep going on about the goodness of the internet and the goodness of the social media, because in rural areas where they probably might need a doctor and there's one physically there, once there's a social media app and they've got a smartphone, they can access even banking, things like banking, and people sending money to them. So I think you should, I think you have every right to worry, and your brain has gone wide because it's there already.
Yes.
So saying it's more of cosmopolitan or more of a rural thing, I think the lines have been blurred and a long time ago.
Okay, I'd like to take you back to the work that you do with the younger ones. How is it going?
It's going very, very well. I am on the Instagram, so I give tips out. I work with schools. I work with some children in schools, and we talk about the etiquette. And I find that the average Nigerian parent is so keen on having well-mannered children. And, even if you don't come to me, you can always come on I can do online classes. I've got my book out, which is also really great for, teaching the children. And we really try, we're an aspirational people. We want our kids to be the best. So we value good manners. It's one of the values that we value, especially greeting. Have you greeted this morning? Yes. How did you greet? Things like that. So with the work with the children is really fulfilling to see the children really conform and behave to shape their lives. And I love that the parents are always very, very interested. One of the parents told me the other day that whenever she wants to threaten her child, she say, "I'll send you to Mrs. Bush. I'll send you to Mrs. Bush." So it's really fulfilling for me, and I'm happy.
Okay.
Yes, but you've only looked at one segment. We have the adults.
The adolescents.
We have the Johnson
The elderlies.
who are already set in their ways, and honestly, I think it's more than a disaster, the situation we have, because so many of us have thrown away the importance of etiquette in our lives, corporate lives,
family lives, social
and all
lives,
of that.
whatever.
Is there any way we can put back this? Is it like too late for some of us to?
I doubt it very much. For me, I think being this is where our humanity comes into play. How would you like to be treated? If we go by the motto of treat others as you would like to be treated, or love thy neighbor as thyself, that's that basic kindness always does come in, because nobody's intrinsically bad. Sometimes they just are not aware that you can do things like this. And then again, you see, I have to now come in where the social media kind of fails us, because social skills have to be practiced face to face.
Yep.
So if you're behind the computer screen, it's unlikely you'll get a chance to practice social skills. So I tell people, even if you're inking, if you're the best at what you do, and you're behind the computer screen talking with someone, when it's time to ink the papers, sign your name, you have to come out, and people will judge you on your social skills at the time. So you just need to practice those social skills.
Yes.
Okay, I'm also thinking right now, government came out to do what it did recently, and a lot of people were like, how come? We're in a developed world. This can't happen in any other place, and all of that. John asked earlier on, how can the government further protect the citizens in this aspect? How do we get to reorientate the Nigerian man?
Or woman.
Or go with John. or woman. To see that we should be able to do this for ourselves, and it's in our interest. It's not all the time that we should be on the other side and the government is on the other side. How do we get us to see this?
Your question actually brings me to mind when I was younger and we were under the military dictatorship, and there was war against indiscipline, kick against indiscipline. I've never seen a Nigeria so orderly. Yeah. So, I think we have a national orientation agency somewhere in this country that, that's their job. Mm-hmm. So what are they doing? I also believe that even us as individuals, we lack love for our country. Because if you loved your country, there are ways that you would behave. I then go back again to see, that's why I work with children. Mm. You hear kids as little as 5 talking about, I want to leave, I want to go, Mm-hmm. So it's a really tough place we found ourselves. Mm. But that's why we're parents. Like I keep saying, we are the government. The government is chosen from us. The government is not chosen from any other person. So what are we as individuals doing to help our country?
Okay, because there's a post trending, it has for a while. John, you ask a question later. All right, and they were gauging, the Big Brother show, and the number of people who voted who were interested and actually participated in the votings from day to day, from hour to hour, from week to week until it was over, against Nigerians' interest and coming to vote, to participate in elections. You know, the difference was like not in this world. Using social media, how can we turn around the hands of the clock?
I think for a lot of people, we feel that our voices are not heard and that whatever it is we do makes no difference in our country. So, everybody wants that sense of belonging. In that BBN thing, there was a sense of belonging. You knew your votes counted and your opinions mattered. So I think for us, this is where maybe our government will now have a role to play, make Nigeria great. Nigeria loves you. Do you love Nigeria? Those type of messages, those subliminal messages. Remember, if you're watching an advert for Coca-Cola and all of a sudden you want to drink one, and even if it's middle of the night, you go downstairs and get one. So it's all this subliminal messaging. Even our shows on our television, the shows on the television, the local shows. What content are they putting in? I'm into K-dramas. I watch a lot of Korean dramas. Okay. And no matter how bad the villain is, he always has a downfall. True. And the police are like, we love our country. So those are messages that can always be put in our shows, in our programs, things that doing good for each other. Yeah, so that's where government comes in.
You're looking at ownership, really.
Yeah,
owning
this is who we are. This is what we have. We have no other country. But
you see, the thing is that Yeye Bush would have loved to own you
for a longer
period.
More time. Yeah.
But they just told me now, a little birdie just whispered in my ears.
Don't mind them.
That we've run out of time.
The police.
On this program. But I must say that we've had a very interesting session with you, and I'm sure that our viewers have as well. And we hope that next time when we call you, you'll be here with us again.
And thank you for this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you for this, and it's especially to me. John, did you get one? All right, let's take a break. Thank you so much, madam. And after this section, shouldn't we just flow with the changes we are experiencing? Well, we thank you once again, our guest. Our fitness segment is next, right after wellness with Pharaoh Owotomo. And she has Omawumi Ogbe as her guest. They will be looking at values and media, social media etiquette, and customer service. You don't want to miss that. Please stay with us.